But today is going to be very fun, very interesting. We met through email. One of his agents or someone who runs the interviews through him contacted Talk Junkies, and here we are right now on a beautiful day here in Missouri. He's going to let you know where he's from, but this man is a man of many trades. Just to say a few, it's holistic living, music, meditation, diet and health, universal law, connecting with nature, the importance of discipline, magic, astrology, crop circles, and so much more. PT, thank you for joining Talk Junkies, man. How you doing?
Nice to be here, Paul. There's a whole lot to talk about, and I'm ready to talk on any topic, whatever you want to. It's, it's, you know, there's because I think everything is connected in the end. Like, you can't really, from where I come from, you don't actually distinguish between subjects and topics. It's one whole. Like, it's like a whole. It's like the more classification and stuff is more of a Western thing. So
Definitely. Well,
yeah.
just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What led you to being, how do you say it again?
Vedic.
A Vedic master?
Yeah. The thing is that we have a lot of religions now in this world, right? We have so many isms here right now. You have Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, and all these so-called religions. And so there had to be something before these religions came into being. There had to be something before that. So my quest was always for what is before that. Since this sort of creation has come into being, which we call the universe, I call it the multiverse. There has to be something which is from that point to now, which is not like something which comes like with a book or something and then goes. It's something like timeless in that way. So that's where I came up across this thing, which is called Vedic and Sanatan, which starts from the beginning of time and will always be. Sanatan means it'll always be, like, it's timeless. So that's where my interest came in. And so that, because none of the religions were giving me the answers to my questions.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I've definitely had
Yeah.
troubles myself trying to find the answers. I feel like
Yeah.
that's what everyone's kind of looking for. I think that's very interesting. I'm going to have to look more into the Vedaic type of
Vedic. Yeah.
the Vedic type of religion, because that's
Yeah.
fascinating. It's something that's always existed. Is there any
Yeah.
is there any type of would you call it a Bible, or is there any type of writings, or is it just something that always existed and it's kind of bigger than man?
The thing is that it is. There are a lot of texts, but there's no one book. It's not a one book kind of thing, and the texts are a lot of time not dealing with Earth. Like, they're dealing with other planes of existence, and other life forms and other beings and all kinds of things, which in America would be called aliens, right?
Right.
But they're not the 3D aliens as they show in Hollywood, but they are aliens nonetheless. So it's not just about this Earth plane; it's about the whole universe and all of its frequencies. And there are a lot of things humans can't see, because eyes are so limited. So it's taking it beyond the realms of like the physical realm of the 3D plane, Earth plane, and then other planes of existence. So it's like giving a whole model of the universe, which is different from the model which NASA gives, or what has been given to us for the last 70, 100 years, and which other religions have given. So it is a different model. And I wouldn't call this a religion anyways. It's just actually as simple as, the dynamics of this place called universe. Like, for example, right now you have a mic which is working, there's a certain electricity which is coming there, and there's a diaphragm and everything, and that's why it works. So because you know about nature and you know how it works, and then accordingly the mic works, the knowledge of that. So now that's not a religion as far as I'm concerned. That's just a fact of what we are staying in and utilization of those facts. So I would consider this sort of thing as the same sort of knowledge as what is technology, modern technology, not science, but technology.
Okay. Very interesting, man.
Yeah.
So these texts that you talk about, is it specifically found in just kind of one area of this realm that we live in, the Vedaic text, or are they found in other places in the world, or is it just one place?
Right. I think these texts are everywhere. Just that the fact that the original language of Vedic was Sanskrit. Okay, there was language was Sanskrit. Now Sanskrit evolved into many languages around along the earth, all over the earth. Like, so a lot of the European languages are coming from Sanskrit, and now people are linguists are saying, okay, they are Indo-European languages. Okay, and there's a whole like research which is going into that, and all the pointers point to Sanskrit in the end. So now people like right now English also, for example, there's an American way of speaking English, there's an Australian way of speaking English, there's a British way of speaking English, there's so many dialects, there's so many different things. Like someone in America can possibly not understand somebody from a particular part of England when they speak English. So I mean, the language turned into various things, and those people had those things in their own texts, the same knowledge, but also in slightly different ways. So the most original texts are in Sanskrit, and which happen to be in a landmass now called India. So that's where majority of those texts are. So, but I won't say they are just there. They are everywhere. They are in Nordic texts.
No,
they are
definitely.
in Albania. There are texts in Russia. There are texts everywhere. They'll be texts in Mayan texts in South America. But the root is the same. And what we are looking for is the thing which is same in all of them, which is, like the continuity and the source, like a source code, just like Unix is the base of operating systems, in computers. After that, you can have Linux or Windows or whatever on top, So the source code is what we call Vedic. Like we can give that like Unix in computer programming, basically.
And that's got to be tough, like to try and find that common ground, because this is so long ago, and and again, it's up for interpretation. Like, do you read the Sanskrits and does it make sense to you? And do you kind of study them or?
Yes, and then you have to apply. You have a machine called human body right now.
That's right.
Like so, so you have to apply it to this machine. And you will see like what kind of results you're getting with this machine, because and like when you apply those things onto this physical body, like this machine, and which is the biggest test, and you can apply it to nature, as well, which is around, which is like biofeedback. You can call it biofeedback. Like for example, if you play a certain kind of music and maybe a rainbow appears, or if you play a certain kind of music, rain appears, or if you play a certain kind of music, rain disappears. So like that's actual, what I would say, experimentation with what we have, which is this machine and this environment we have been given, and the sort of synergy of two, and communication between the two, and all of that. So
man, there's so many different routes I could go, because this is awesome, man. I almost think that, I mean, and now that like we're just having this conversation, I kind of feel, I mean, this is kind of like what you're describing is how I feel, is what I'm searching for. Believe as weird as it sounds, because this is the first time you and I have had a conversation, and it almost makes sense, because I feel like in the Western world, or in the United States and other countries that try and develop this type of environment that we live in now, is going away from what you just described. It's taking away that human aspect of what makes us us. And they're trying to just turn us into sheep or cattle to just do a rat race.
Yes. I mean, the thing was that what happened in the West was like they had a dominating religion called Christianity, right? And then Christianity had its own, that thing you have to believe, right? Like it was just believe, and then they replaced it with this new religion called science. Okay. But science was no different, because again, you have to believe, and if they say like, okay, there's nuclear fusion happening in the sun, happens in the sun, then you have to believe. They have to say like this, whatever they say, tell you, like, you just go on believing, you don't have to really know any of that, like, but you just get a false sense of knowing that you're knowing something. And, so that's what happened in the West, and the one good thing which has happened in the West is technology, because I'm for that, because human body is also a technology, at the end of the day, and the technology part is, I like it because it's actually to do with reality, rather than like physics and maths and stuff, because like I actually trained to be an engineer. Okay. And my studies and stuff when I was growing up, so I went to college and all of that. So, and the kind of maths we were being taught and stuff, they were imaginary numbers in it, under root of -1, under root of, what is under root of -1? Like, I mean, there is no under root of -1. Like, and these are actually part of equations in maths, and the game which has been played on earth is that science and technology have been put together as words, like science and technology, when science is totally different and technology is totally different. Like, no person in physics or maths can make even this mic you are speaking to. Like, there's no scientist or like so-called scientist, physicist or mathematician who can make anything of use to a human being on this earth. Okay, that's a fact.
Just a hypothesis.
Yeah. So the fact is that they are, so technology, because it has to work. For it has to work, it has to make sense. It has to be within the laws of nature and universe, right? Otherwise, it won't work. So, but there's no such an equation. In equations, you can prove anything. In mathematical equation, you can prove a tree is the same as a like a glass ball. You can prove anything, basically. This equals this. Like, but in reality, that's not so. So that's why it's called theoretical. Everything is a theory. It's not a fact. Like in science, every theory of relativity, theory of this, Big Bang theory, because they can't call these as facts. Even if they don't have the, they know it's not true, so they can't say this is a fact, like fact of relativity or fact of this. So all these theories were there, and this has kept human beings in a very strange mental space where they're swimming in this sea of theories where nothing is clear. And then religions come and they're like, all you can do is believe. So the actual knowing of anything becomes well nigh impossible when you're swimming between those two seas. So that's the paradigm human beings have been kept in. But I think that's breaking now in the last 10 years, since YouTube and a lot of knowledge has been proliferating now. So people are coming to actually know something now.
Yes.
For real, at least, like something like concrete, something real or something like that. Like, so that's what I think the human experiment is moving towards now.
I hope so, man, because something has to give, something has to change, because we can't continue to live like this, because it's very dismal. It puts people, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't feel like I was put on this earth to work at a bar and serve drinks to other people and watch them get drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been in the restaurant business since my whole adult life for 15 years. And it's just like, that's not the purpose of life. You know what I'm saying? And I know you can find purpose in life in other ways other than what you do when you work. But how much time do you spend at your actual job throughout a lifetime? It's a lot. It's a lot. Yes. So, I mean, like exactly what you're just describing, you're completely 100% right. That you have all these theories. You have, science is now a religion. And I wish Jesse and Johnny were here, because they love science, man. They are all about science. And I get into these type of arguments with them, and it's hard to have a conversation because they believe in it so much. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on again so you can have that conversation with them. But I hope you're right, man, because YouTube is doing everything they can to not spread this type of message. They're trying very hard, but you're right. It is breaking through, and more people are starting to understand, but it needs to happen quicker. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. That depends on people, right? In the end of the day, the more desperate they are, the more they will go for it. The more they'll try and find out. Because before YouTube was there, I used to have my videos on my website, as PTube. I used to call it PTube before YouTube.
Nice.
And 1 year later, I suddenly saw this company emerge called YouTube. So it was like that, and it's good. Like, I mean, but now YouTube are censoring, then something else will emerge. People will go back to those kind of ways. Something will keep on happening. For people to be able to communicate. And spread the things. That'll always happen. And the problem with science and technology is that why people are defending science is because they somehow integrate technology with it. They don't separate them out. When they're two different things. So when they get defensive of technology, they get defensive of science too. They don't demarcate the difference between the two. So that's a neat little trick people have played, like the ones who are in control of things. So that's, you know, that's how it is. But people can see through that. I think time is coming where people will be able to. And like you said about the job and stuff, you know, that is all like whatever people are made to do on this earth. There's this distraction. You know, that's never the purpose of human life. You know, human life that's not what it was meant to be. These jobs are not sort of created because people need to earn to survive. They're actually made as distractions. You know, there's enough out here where everyone could survive. There's enough food out here. There's enough resources out here where everyone could survive. It's just a distraction given on top, you know, like a paradigm which has been put, like a matrix, which has been put on top of the earth, you know. So you can call it a matrix, you know. So that's the best way to put it, like, which people can understand out there because of the movie and everything, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, so that's like, but there is a way out of the matrix. Yes.
And I hope so. And I saw in one of the emails that I had exchanged with one of your people, it says that you've actually, I don't know, is it like your friends, family, in the town that you live in, you actually created a type of lifestyle, like a Vedic lifestyle that they can, you know, use and benefit from, and it's actually working?
Yeah, yes. I mean, there is a, you know, like natural ways of living which can be like used in the modern ways. You know, like, I'm not against technology, you know, but you can still use a lot of things which are good for your human body, you know. And in the technology, discard things which are not so good for your human body, for the human body. But for that, you have to understand human body as a machine. Okay, now you have a machine, like for example a computer and stuff. You don't keep it in a lot of heat, you know, because the computer CPU won't like that. So you try to give it a cool environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make sure the CPUs, like wherever the servers are kept, like the environment will be cold, because you understand then what is the demand of that machine, you know. Like, then you give it an environment which that machine likes. Okay, right? The same way human body demands certain things, you know. So to give it what it likes, so that it functions optimally, and so that it can do what it was meant to do, you know, that is the whole point, you know. So like in the Vedic thing, there are a lot of let's say technological pointers to that, including diet, housing, you know, everything, clothing, everything, like whatever human body, you know, and what you do with the mouth, the sound, everything. There are pointers to that, which I don't find in other religions, you know, like actual nitty gritty.
No, it's give me money. Here, I'm going to pass
Yeah,
this little bucket around and just put whatever you can, 10% of what you
yeah.
make every year.
Like I'm talking about specific details,
Right, even that, yeah.
you know, because all technology machines have details, right? Like, you know, there's a detail to it, you know. And that's what I find, that in the Vedic there was a detail about the human body, you know, which I don't find in other places, you know, about this machine, you know. And we have tried to put it like as much as we can. And it has been like people have seen, and people have, you know, started replicating, you know. So like, we'll see how it goes in the future, you know.
But it is working right now. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's working.
concept of that,
Yeah, yeah,
it's not necessarily like, it's not narcissistic at all. It's saying, hey, like, you know, your body has one purpose, and let's find out what that purpose is, and let's enhance it, and let's make it the best that it could possibly be.
yeah, yes. And because once we have been given this machine, what is the reason we have been given this machine? All of that in the Vedic knowledge, all of that is there. Why you have this machine in the first place, you know, and for what purpose? What is the if you don't do the purpose in this machine right now, you will have to take more machines in the future, you know. So like, this body is like outer covering of a Russian doll. You know, Russian dolls have like one doll, one doll, one doll, one doll. So this is the outside doll. The, you know, when the shell is broken, which people say you die, you know, the other dolls come out, you know, because just the outer doll has been broken, you know. And now those dolls are put again in this doll, basically, until you can, you know, like, it's like level 1 of a computer game, you know. If you don't do the level 1, you don't go to the level 2, basically. So like, we have to know what this level is and what the level is, and then act accordingly, and like get to level 2. I mean, that should be normal for any person, you know, like, and that'll be there inside every human being, that I don't want to be stuck at that level. Like,
but so hold
yeah,
on. So, and I got a question. If that's
yeah,
if that's the case, and for
yeah,
some people it takes longer to understand this type of work or this type of thing that we're talking about, and that's kind of like reincarnation almost.
yes,
But it has a purpose behind it, saying, hey, that like you need to progress in this. You had to
yes,
progress, with your consciousness in order
yes,
to move on to the next level. There's got
yeah.
to be some people, or at least majority of the population right now, that this would take thousands, if not, tens of thousands of years for these people, you know what I'm saying, to take that next step.
Yes, I think a lot of change is happening very fast now, though. Like a lot of the younger generation and stuff, it's already asking these questions. You know, I find that like even at the age of 7 or 6 or 8 or 9 or 10, they are like, asking these kind of questions,
Very true.
like, yeah, it was not like 30, 40 years ago. It was different, you know, like in the West when the hippie thing happened in the 60s, questions were asked then, right? So, but then it mellowed out like 70s, 80s, and then again now, like since 2000s and stuff, now things have moved fast since the net has progressed. And I think people will go through those kind of things very fast. It'll be change will be so fast, so fast. I mean, 9/11 was a big change for America, whatever, and that, then slowly people started questioning the government. Even like before that, questioning the government was not a, you know,
Right.
like like a but that happened fast, and now there are millions of people who question everything about science, government, everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So that, and it's going to happen into like what the term is viral. Things go viral. Like, that's what they say these days. That's the terminology. So yeah, those things can go viral. And people can get really into the thing. And I'm positive about it. Seeing things around the world as a whole, like, like
Definitely.
not many countries.
And
You know.
I have a couple of friends who,
Yeah.
they kind of, I didn't know that this is what it was called, but this is what they practice.
Yes.
And, they seem very enlightened in their conscious being, and they seem very
Yes.
more aware. And it's just like, you almost can't have, you almost can't have conversations with other people about it because they're just not ready for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's one aspect of it, but sorry to bring it back. Like, I'm just kind of specifying in like if we were to believe human history as it's told in the history books, that's kind of, and I know technology has progressed things like you've described, but it's just were these type of things happening, in the 1600s and 1700s and 1800s, or is this something, I know you said it's always been there, but
Yes.
has it been prevalent in the world or even the Western world, or where did it kind of just like blow up, recently?
I mean, the thing is that the question has always been there for humans. Like, what are we here for? Who are we? You know, that's an age-old question, right? Like, it's not new per se. You know, but the thing is that to actually find out the answers is another matter. You know, so like the opportunity for like someone in 16th century to find out the answers would be more limited. Like even the books and stuff would be only with the rich at the time, right? Like
Yep.
which had knowledge and texts and things like that. So I mean, there are right now a lot of those texts are still not out to public. Like some are in Vatican Library, which are not out to public. Still. So there is a lot of knowledge which is being kept hidden from the masses. For the whole time. Like until up till now even. But the thing is that right now the chance of that knowledge coming out is much, 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 much more. That's all. That's the thing. And I think it will come out as a whole. And it'll be a shock to many. Obviously, when actual knowledge comes out, not information. When people have been having information, don't have knowledge. There's a huge difference between the two. And so some might have a adverse reaction in the beginning. Like, but as like time goes on, and as more people get aware and more they see things work like that, and it's actually proven in the real world, then people will, I mean, masses are quick to change the tune, actually, like in the end. Like they're not so they don't have such a solid spine as people think.
Fair enough. So I think
Yeah.
So what you're kind of suggesting is that these
Yeah.
rich elite or entities or whatever you want to call them that are controlling this realm that we live in
Yeah.
the masses, there's only so much that they can do, and that the positive will always win over negative.
Yes, because what happens is like even they have some idea of the laws of the universe and multiverse. They're not complete dumbards as people might think of them to be. Like, to be in that position also, you have to know something, right?
Yep.
So you know how much you can push it and how much you can't. You know what you can do, what you can't do. There are rules to that, even, which I don't think are discussed in talks and forums and things online that much. What the rules are. And so like there are karmic laws which are in place, and those people are aware of it, and that's why they're not going to push it like that. That's why they want people to like take everything willingly, voluntarily, instead of forcing things. Like they want like parents to send their children to school voluntarily, like the education system and all that, with the fake education system which doesn't actually teach anything,
Right.
really.
Yep.
You go there for 20 years and you don't come out any better off than you were like 20 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
questions remain the same. So so I mean, it's not by force, it's still by like your agreeance, that yes, I agree to this. So, and that's where the key is. If human beings stop agreeing to it, the whole thing, and start going their own way, then I mean, there's nothing anyone can do about it. There's no, yeah.
No, I like that, man. No, it's very interesting. And I don't know, we had a lady on by the name of Rebecca Hardcastle, right, a couple weeks ago, and she was just
Yes.
in her and Johnny and Jesse started getting into AI, and just she kind of suggested that AI like is too much for us to even handle, and that we're not even there yet. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So like, are you worried about technology? I know you say you like technology a lot and you embrace it, but are you worried that maybe it could, if it's in the wrong hands, or maybe it gets too powerful, that it could be a detriment?
See, people, there are technologies which I don't like as well. In technology also, like, you have to understand, what is what, and for example, like in sound, when sound came, like there was sound technology, there were tube amps in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Then they said like, oh no, tubes make the amp too big. We want that to be smaller, so we want to use transistors. Okay. So then came transistor amps in 70s. And then by 80s, they started saying, no, we want it even smaller. And we had ICs, integrated circuits. Okay. From 80s and 90s. Now, I prefer the sound of tube amps. Okay. So that's a technology I prefer in sound. For example, I prefer analog recording. I prefer, So it's a question of, and then why that technology is better. Why is that better for the human ear? Why is better for the human brain? So there's a whole intelligence which goes into it. And technology, at least you can sort of go into those details. That's what I like about technology. It's not just hocus pocus
Yeah.
up in the air. Like that's what I like about it. Like it's not just like and the AI thing you were talking about, like, okay, no matter how much artificial intelligence grows up or anything like that, it's still about doing things out here. It's not going to be giving answers to life. you know like they had a joke in that there used to be a series called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They made a very big computer and they used to ask it like, can you tell us the meaning of life? And it just came up with a number, some number, after millions of like data
Yeah.
that things, and just that number. So I mean, artificial intelligence will still have its limitations in terms of consciousness. So people are underestimating consciousness here and the power of consciousness, compared to machines in that way. So but people will realize at some point, like that I mean, there are a lot of technologies in other realms which are much more than Earth. There are realms which are much more technologically advanced than we are, and a lot of our technology is actually like throwabouts from there. What we have, you know is is just like their, discards, where they don't really need it anymore, like, and it's not good enough, so. And like, because people think that earth technologies have come from humans, like humans have suddenly thought up these things, you know humans suddenly came up with a tube amp or a tube television, or like there were people who did all of this, which is not so. Humans will never come across any of this ever, like if they were left to themselves, there's no question of human beings coming up with any of this,
Yeah,
so,
that's fascinating, because I think I always
yeah.
remember, just like and we've talked about it on the podcast before, it's like people had dreams about how they made these things, or Beethoven dreamed about the music that he was going to play,
Yes.
just like that type of stuff.
Yes, I mean, now the people call it dreams and stuff, but I'm saying there was more to it than, when we had like what you call CRT now, cathode ray tube, when it was first made. It was made to commune with these entities. When the entities were communicating, so they had a screen, like a green screen, and they could write on there straight. So, so it was a more of a, like, actually a seance sort of device, rather than anything. But it became a television later. You know,
Yeah.
the so-called technology. And so, but it is what it is. So there have been a lot of things which are hidden from the masses. About
So
these
so
things.
that's a question I guess I could ask is, so maybe in the 1900s or 1850s to 1900s, did
Yeah.
civilization kind of take that next step into what is technology?
Yes.
Were we ready at that point? So we kind of developed into that level 2 or whichever level it would be.
Yes, because everything is going towards a certain sort of ages. Like in the Vedic, there's a thing called ages. Like we were in the age of Kali. Is Yug. It's called Yug. It's an age. So we were in the age of Kali, which is the age of ignorance. And so this age is about to come to an end, which basically, so the 100-year period before that, 150-year, is a transition period. So in that, things have to start getting, like you are not just like some, like, farmer in a farm, you know who doesn't know anything about anything, you know like who has no idea about whatever is possible in this universe or not. So all of that was going to change. you know so and the actual knowledge was about to come. And so I think all of that progression which has happened in the last 150 years leading up to internet, and finally me being able to talk to you right now from a distance,
Yep.
and others being able to hear it, has happened for a reason. And that reason is exactly like why we are having this conversation, and this information is being told to the people via this technology, right? So I think it's all part of the plan. Like, it's like and there are a lot of forces involved in the plan. Like there is a book called Lord of the Rings, like, in which this is called the Middle Earth,
Yep.
which is again as per Vedic cosmology only, because this is in the middle. There are realms below, higher technological realms. There are realms above, which are different. They have technology, but different kinds. And we are in the middle, and sometimes we are a battleground for those entities. So that is part of the play here. Like, they're part of the game of this Middle Earth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I mean, if hopefully I progress enough to where I don't have to be in this realm too much longer, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But I mean, it would be interesting to see what this realm would look like in 1,000 or 2,000 years, just to see how people progress. What would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence about this, or really like just they're really not interested in this type of thing? What would be something that you would say to them, just to kind of, maybe either help them or make them understand a little bit more? Just
you just try to keep an open mind and just look at different things, like look at the crop circle phenomena, look at anything, and do research yourself, like into anything, like
that's the
the crop
hardest part
circles
for
and stuff.
people to do. The hardest part for people to do is do research themselves, including me as well. But I say,
Yeah,
because literally
yeah,
all you do is you get on your phone,
like,
you type in Google, and Google tells you what they want you to hear, and then people
yeah.
are
I
like,
mean, even on Google, the research like 100 things. Don't just go by one thing. Like, at least put some more. Like how people go into things. Like, just don't go by one thing. The first thing you see, or the first thing they feed you about it. what I mean by research is just don't go by the very first thing, because right now, if you tried that in YouTube is going to give you the worst possible video
Yep.
selection in the
Yep.
first page. So don't go by the first page. At least go to the 10th page or 15th page. At least, like, that's what I mean by research here. I'm not using it as a very heavy term, but I'm just using it as a term. At least don't go by that, like, the agenda which YouTube used to be a nice search engine before, like, because it was not manipulated like that, which it is
Yep.
now in the last year or two.
Right.
So but if you where there's a will, there's a way. Like, if you really want to fight, I mean, for that you have to be really sincere in the end. Your intent has to be sincere. Do you really want to know? Like if your intent is really to know, you will. Okay, that depends how strong your intent is. The stronger your intent, and which is up to you only, that is in no one else's hands. So that's
See,
where it comes down to. I
that's
think,
that's deep though. That's deep, PT, because
yeah,
I mean, it makes sense because I mean, I guess some people just aren't ready for it, And I guess there's really not a right or wrong answer for when someone will transition into that next level. It's kind of just up to them and on their own, right? Because
or circumstances,
yeah,
because the world will change in such a dramatic and drastic way where you'll have no choice.
very true. You kind of broke up a
If
little
things
bit.
are all going hunky dory, but when you are pushed against the wall from every direction, then you have to. There is, like, there is no, and
That's
that also happens, and sort of that's what's happening since 2020, and it's going to keep on happening for the whole next decade. So, so people will have to find out, because there'll be no option. If you don't, then you will pay a price, not like later, but just straight away or very soon within your lifetime.
so is a good way to practice this type. It's I can't say it. It's Vedic, right?
Yeah.
Vedic. So is meditation a good way to kind of immerse yourself into something like this? Because we've had a few people on about meditation and lucid dreaming and stuff like that.
Yes. Then now, like, the word meditation in English comes from Latin medi. Medi means middle. Okay. Which comes from Sanskrit madhya. Madhya became medi, became, what is middle in English, the word middle. So all meditation means is that you're coming to the center, basically. That's all. So human beings have two channels, right side, left side, solar, lunar, and you always stay in the center. So your posture is in the center, your body is in the center, your breath is in the center, your speech is in the center, everything is in the center. And that's meditation. So meditation is not something which you sit down in a pose quietly. That's not meditation. So if you speak from the center of your mouth anytime, you are meditating. And if your content is real and true, you are meditating even more. So meditation is not some activity which people have made. Like, this is again like a joke which has been made by the things like yoga and stuff which have come into the West. Again, it's a wrong perception about this thing. So which is there in everything. It's there in everything. Like in music, when CDs came, no one realized the sound of CDs was not so good. Like, it was scratchy and edgy and trebly, and compared to the tapes, which was just there like a decade ago, but the masses didn't realize the difference. So, and after that they put MP3s, and then people didn't realize that how low quality they were compared to wave files. Okay, and right now we have come down to ringtone level in mobiles, and that's good sound quality now for human beings. So you can gradually create this kind of thing in everything. The same has happened in meditation.
So technically we're meditating together right now, almost, right?
Yes.
That's
yes.
I've never heard that before. That's crazy. I mean, not crazy in a good way. Sorry, I've just never heard that before.
Yes. It's crazy is good way. Yes. Crazy means good, like in English now.
Yeah.
So
you're keeping up with the hip language in the U.S., man. Impressive.
Well, it's. I mean, I've been all over the world. I stayed in the U.S. with the Hopi for a bit and around there, and I was in Arizona, and I've traveled all of U.S. like almost every state. So so,
you know a little bit about us.
like so.
Right.
So,
Well,
so
no,
like to see the earth and all the people and different kinds of people all over the world. And, like it's a hobby of mine. So yeah.
That's a good hobby to have, man. But that's awesome though. That's really cool. That, I mean, you're not wrong that they've changed the perception of what it is to meditate. So for instance, like, and I've talked about this on the podcast many times, is like, what would you call it when you're in your room and the lights are off and you're trying to, do would you call it still meditation, or are you trying to like enter a different?
I'm saying, like whenever you stop the speech, which is with a human in the human machine, if you stop the speech, your mind will run a whole lot.
Yeah.
So you cannot really control the mind. The only way to control the mind with the human machine is speech. So the speech has to be going. So that's why in Vedic they made things called mantras, which you must have heard the word mantras.
Yep.
Okay, like this term has been floating around. So these mantras were like repetitions of certain sounds, to create a certain effect. So nowhere in the Vedic they ever said you quietly sit down. Okay, never, ever anyone said that you quietly sit down, because only thing that will lead to is your mind running at 100 miles an hour. And you saying like, how do I control this thing? And you can't, because you can only control two things with this machine, like your attention and this machine. Okay, there's nothing else you can control. You cannot control your mind at all directly, but you can control it via this machine called body. So you can control the body, like in this body, like you can raise your hand when you want to, you can put it down when you want to. This is more or less under your control, but your mind is not. But the problem, what has happened is that people's minds and bodies have gotten like this, very, very tight together. So whenever mind tells someone to do something, people just do it. So like there has to be separation between mind and body actually. Then what you call your consciousness, the third thing, can control the body. So
yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that yet. I want to be, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole point. Like for example, a kid is there, like there's a candy in front of it, candy jar in front of it. Now mind will tell it to go into the candy jar and eat the candy, right? Like, and the kid will just put his hand and grab it and eat it, right? That's a mind-body strong connection response. So it will not be like, okay, what will happen if I eat all the candies? Whether I'll get sick or not. That's not its point of view at the time. It's just the reaction as per the mind. So like when you actually start doing this real meditation, you create that separation between mind and body, and then you can use this machine much better. When it's not in hands of the mind, because that's where mind is the thing which can be programmed, right? Like that's why whatever they call in the today's world is called mind programming, right? They don't use word like spirit programming. They only say mind programming. Okay, so your mind can be programmed. It can be given fake inputs and false inputs and false information and false things, and you can, which is all in the mental world, so all of that world where unreality can be, you can learn maths in that mental world. You can be a mathematician where nothing makes any sense, but it makes sense to you in your mind. Like, so which is not the reality of the multiverse. So in that mental world, you don't have to face reality. It's a kind of escapism. It's no different from drugs or anything like that. It's the mental world. And that's why people are going there, because they can't understand this machine, the body. So once you don't understand this machine and you don't know how to use it, the next refuge is the mind, right? You immediately best to go there, like, but once you go there, you find there's too many problems. That's where the depression and all these kind of, negativities and all these things are lurking. So then people go into drugs and things like that, like now you don't want to face that either, so let's escape that, so it happens in this kind of way, like, and there's a funny thing which came to my mind when I said that to you, like, that addiction, like, the word is addiction for drugs or anything, and that is the opposite of diction. Addiction means opposite of diction. So if you have proper diction, you will not have any addiction, but
Yep.
it's a simple thing, but they don't teach you that at school, and
See,
then they have the thousands of clinics and millions of these things to get people out of addiction and everything. But proper diction helps you out of addiction. It's a very simple thing, and that is Vedic concept. In Vedic times, when little kids were taught language, when they're 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years, all the focus is on their diction. How is the mouth moving? Are the words coming from the center? Are you speaking them properly? Is your pronunciation proper? All the focus is on that, nothing else.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, but
I just,
that's yeah.
it makes you wonder. And again, you kind of just described it though. It's just like, why is it that we're not taught any of this at all, in school, at least here
Yes.
in the United States anyways. I can't speak for any other country, but to me, that is the most asinine thing that you could do, is not teach us how to or how to operate this vessel that we're in, or this body that we're in, to its fullest. That's just
Yes.
this crazy.
Yes, that's the most crazy thing about the education system, and it's happening everywhere around the world. It's not just America, it's Europe, it's Asia, it's everywhere. Okay, Australia, anywhere. And in fact, they are actually promoting wrong ways of speaking and accents. Like in America, they are promoting this very twangy accent, like where you have to be sidey to speak. And in sidey in English is a bad word. Because if you're a sidey person, you are untrustworthy.
Yep.
Sidey in Old English meant untrustworthy, actually. And like if you're a straightforward person, that means you're speaking right from the center, and you're a straightforward person, then you are trustworthy. And like colonies like Australia, America, they were even told, like, have a more and more sidey accent. So that's how the colonial powers like England could keep their supremacy, by teaching the colonies bad diction. Basically.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
they have a master plan, man. These people, it's insane how they've got it all just broken down and planned out. It's insane.
Yeah, and speech. Yeah, and that's what is the difference between, like, they had movies like I know My Fair Lady, or the ones before in 50s. I don't know what it was called, but My Fair Lady, and it was all about diction. And in England, like, the hierarchy depended on who had better diction, who spoke properly, because English also could not be spoken properly by most people. Forget about Sanskrit, because Sanskrit has got much more pronunciation issues, because there are 50. Like English has 26 alphabets, Sanskrit has 50.
Oh man.
Okay. Yeah. So there's much more to pronunciation in that than English.
So can you speak Sanskrit, or is it a language? Sorry.
Yes.
And is there a large population that speaks it as well?
No. See, Sanskrit is not user language. Okay, for example, right now, if you have a Unix operating system in that thing, you wouldn't use it directly from there. You still need an operating system on top to be able to communicate with your machine. Like, for example, you want to use an app like Zoom or anything, you will not run it from Unix. So Sanskrit is not like everyday use kind of language. So for that, there was a thing called Hindi in India, which is the user friendly version of that. So I mean, I'm fine with the English language too, if there are certain things incorporated from that. And this Hindi language had the same alphabets, 50, but it was more like user friendly, where you can run your apps, sort of. So
it's almost as if the Sanskrits, they were the most advanced. Or who do we know who wrote those?
No, Sanskrit is like a language of like the creator itself. When the beginning of creation, when
Okay.
you have the sounds to create that, from the word you have the word, and then world is just an L.
Okay.
Between word and world is just an L difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
and that L is a turn. L is actually a turn, which is like a physical torus. Like, okay.
Got you.
So when word turns into a torus, you get a world, which you see around. So everything has a sound like that. Whatever you have around that, like that table, everything is just a sound, but it's manifesting as that.
So
a certain operation.
The reason there's, the reason it's so difficult to understand or even do is because it's from the creator.
Yeah. Yes. It's like, it is what this thing is made up of.
Right. Or not necessarily even the creator, but what this world is made up of. Because like you said, there's you know what I'm saying? Yeah, dude, there's so many questions I could ask you.
Yeah. Just like there is, like you have a binary language, 0 and 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
From which your computer runs, just from 2, like just 0 and 1, on and off switch. That's all it is. Everything is just running from that. So now imagine something running from 50 such things.
That's complex.
Yeah, that's the universe.
Right.
So, like anything from 0 and 1s, no matter how advanced it gets, AI, it will never be able to compete with something which is running on 50 things. No matter where you take it. But that's from a technical point of view. I'm just saying that from a technical point of view. People won't understand the technical point of view of it. So there's no need to be afraid of that.
No, definitely not. It's just something I need to definitely do more research on. You know what I'm saying? So I watched like probably 3 or 4 of your videos in their entirety, but it still didn't prepare me for those, that type of stuff. So I need to dig down and do some research, or I don't know if there's any good YouTube videos that you are out there that will make you understand it, or if you have any that would make you understand that type of stuff more.
I mean, I'm speaking language I'm speaking different things to different people. For example, if I'm speaking to the American audience, then I would like to keep it more like Star Wars or Star Trek or, things like that, which people can relate to, can or understand that language, so because all of that is there. There are always things in there which are important and have to do with the real things. There's always something there, so it's just getting on that frequency with the language another person is speaking, or what they have been told, or they've been told the same things, like and through Star Wars they taught a little bit of Vedic things to the West, Yoda and all of that.
It's been a while since I watched Star Wars.
Yeah, but in a different way. They've been trying to just give little bits and pieces, but not the actual full thing. Not the whole piece of the pie, and not the whole technology and the whole sense of it and everything. But there's always something which you can connect to in that. And I think that's how it's going to happen in kids. Like a lot of kids right now play computer games. And those computer games have a lot of those things, which are based on Vedic only, actually. But when I see it, I can see it like it's based on that. But to them, it's like something new. So why it takes their fancy is because it's something new. It's not something which they have experienced before, right? So it's different from their mundane, boring life, which they see around, and so which creates a sense of awe, or something, wonder, and inquiry, and like you can go into that, and finally I think all of those tools will reach a fulcrum point where everything will come to this Vedic thing anyways. I can see it happening, but through various mediums, and it is going to happen, so.
And I'm excited for it, man. I probably just have a couple more questions. We'll probably leave it off with that because we are getting close to the top of the hour here, man. And an awesome podcast, man. It's just fantastic. Great podcast. I mean, it's been awesome, man. And definitely hope to have you on again. That'd be amazing with John and Jesse, because I'm sure they'd have some great questions for you. But I got a couple more, man, and then I'll let you get back to it. So with language, why are there so many different languages? Because I think that's, again, what we're talking about with meditation and how you meditate while you're talking and how you do that. Is there a specific reason why we all speak different languages?
The thing is, what happens is that whenever people separate apart anywhere in that's like into groups, clans or tribes or anything, they start speaking the same language in a different sort of accent, which becomes a dialect after a while, and afterwards sort of a new language, basically, and in time many things go in and out. Then obviously there are some actual like people who say, let's take this out, let's put this in as per their agendas. There are beings who have agendas. Okay. Yep. So accordingly, some things changes take place because of that, So some happens just because people drift out, and then sometimes, for example, like there are beings in Australia now, which are called the Aboriginal people, and those people, their language and South Indian language is similar, but there used to be a landmass in between them at one point, between India, like which is now Indonesia, Malaysia, and all of these things, and then it was connected to the Australian continent, all things. So the language had a stream. People could not go there anymore. So these people were isolated suddenly on this island. So over a while, they developed their own idiosyncrasies about how they're going to speak that, right? But the root still remains. But you can see the changes, which happen in time if people are cut off from other people, which was the case for a long while, like Eskimos or, Native American Indians or any people who have been cut off from other parts. If there was land bridge once between Alaska and Siberia and everything, and people were moving and that thing, then it'll be different. And now the languages which are there in the Siberian region, and if you take the same languages in what are the tribes in Canada and America, there are similarities.
It's very, because I mean, there's actually evidence to show this as well. There was I think it was a Vice documentary, and not that I'm trying to promote Vice at all, but they actually went to I think it was South Carolina, and there was this secluded town that you had to travel by water on boat because the only way to get there was by water, and there was only a handful of adults who still had this accent. And only they had that accent. No one else had it, and it's slowly dwindling away because more tourism's coming to that city. It's getting bigger, it's getting larger, and it's more accessible. So there you go. The language is changing.
Yeah, and separation. And a lot of times it's political, For example, once you get a certain kind of language, you can create a political system out of it, like which has happened in Europe. For example, like Germany is where people speak German. And France is where people speak French, right?
Yep.
So you automatically create nation states.
And divide,
And based on language, right?
Yep.
You have automatic division. So more people get to be kings and queens, the more languages there are.
Yep. There you go, man. I like the way you think. I'll leave you with one last question, man. And this is something that's been fascinating me here recently in my life. Probably last year, I found a guy by the name of John Levy on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's fantastic. He's had years of content, and it's just kind of what he suggests is that we inherited this world in maybe the 17 or 1800s before cameras became a thing, or before we got the idea from one of the creators on how to make a camera. There was all these massive buildings in the United States, World's Fair buildings, thousands of acres of beautiful buildings. And he's suggesting that we inherited this and that there was a more advanced civilization maybe before ours, and the settler, that just all these buildings were already here and everything was just.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, most of those buildings can't be created right now. That's a fact.
Right.
Even pyramids can't be built right now. So and there's so many other buildings even which can't be built right now. And what those buildings are for also, they are also sort of sound technology. Now they have been made into churches, right?
Yeah.
You just put a cross on something, you call it a church, right? But it was not a church. It was a building for certain sonic things. You can put a certain frequency and a note which it resonates with. So you can amplify that note in that building. They are basically big sound speakers, basically, amplifiers and speakers, and through which you can create changes in the atmosphere. You can create all kinds of things through that. You can control the weather, environment, all kinds of things through that. So which is technology, which people don't know right now. So that's why they're using. So obviously all of that is there in the Vedic. If you go to Vedic texts, you will find that the beings before, like the civilizations before, had way more technology than right now. They had crafts which just function on thought, not a liver. You just have to think, go this way, it'll go that way.
So is there, sorry, the last question, I promise. So in that situation, is there like cataclysms that happen that can wipe out these, in the text, does it say that it can wipe out these technological civilizations and then they basically have to start from level 1 again?
Yes. And that's what's called Kali Yuga. Like Kali Yuga, which means is like you are in ignorance and darkness and you don't have any of this knowledge, understanding or anything. There was a time when these alien beings could actually visit Earth all the time, okay, and interact with humans, okay. Now, that time is not so anymore. There was a time where like quarantine has been done. That is not possible anymore. So now humans will always wonder, is there anything more than us? Are we alone here? All these kind of questions will keep on rising in human beings because they don't have any direct proof, which used to be there before all the time. If it's happening all the time, then you don't ask questions about it. You say like, oh yeah, it happens every day. I know about it. It's not about a belief anymore. So right now, maximum intervention which can happen dimensionally from these things is like crop circles, So, but like, so people have to like understand that there is all kinds of things before, and that's what the Vedic is saying. So when John Levy is saying that and all these things, it just ties in with the Vedic thing again. So even though he's working in a totally different area, and he's talking about the buildings and all of these things, he's still again going in with the Vedic thought, and that thing without even knowing that he's doing so. Right. So that's what I've said, like the convergence is happening. People can work in whatever field, like sound, buildings, anything, and they will converge.
It'll all come together.
All disciplines will converge. Okay. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Like when you mentioned him, like again, it proved the same thing, Yeah. So it's, it's all converging. Like it's that thing, and it'll converge into this knowledge system. And whether people come from a Star Wars point of view, whether they come from this point of view, whether they come from that point of view, they'll all find a home.
Good.
Even from a Christian point of view, or anything, whatever.
Yeah.
They might be, so like it will converge.
And that's a beautiful thing, man. And then we'll leave it at that because there's a lot of, I think we scratched the surface on what it is you can talk about because there's so much more. And again, that in the email that how do you say their name? I forget their name.
It's Jokia.
Okay.
Bunny.
Yeah. Well, whenever we were talking, there's just she, or is it him, or sorry, he. Yeah, sorry. He sent me a list. She. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. She sent me a list of just the things that you can talk about. So again, we scratched the surface today, my man, and we will be able to just hit more. Again, if you want to come back on, I'm not trying to pressure you.
Yeah. I'll be pleased and I'll be happy to carry forward the conversation. And this is like just to give people a sense of like that this world is more different from what they think it is. Like this, that's. And there's obviously much more to life than whatever the mundane little cube they have been given.
Which is the most important part of your message, man, and your knowledge is that there is more to life than that, especially here in the Western world. Again, what I would described earlier is this rat race that we're all in, and we're trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is never coming. But I think something like, just this, what we talked about in this podcast, man, was very pleasurable, man, and very awesome. And I'll be doing a lot more research into it.
Yes. I'll be happy to come, and we can organize more and whenever, and we'll make it a series.
Cool. No, that'd be awesome, man. Yeah, because again, we there's a lot of other stuff we could have got into, man. But real quick, I'm going to put the links below where people can find you on YouTube or whatever else. I don't know if there's any plugs you want to shout out or anything you want to say before you leave, man.
No, I don't function like that. But yeah, whatever, people can like look at my things, whatever, if they feel interested.
For sure, man. Well, PT, man, thank you so much for joining Talk Junkies, my man. I got to get ready for work and head out. You know, I got to go do the mundane, serve some drinks and watch people get drunk, man. But unfortunately, it pays the bills right now. But thank you so much for joining Talk Junkies, man. Honestly, it's been awesome.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers, man.